Good morning, everyone. I'm Micki. Welcome to my garage studio for gentle yoga. And my cat Lily might be popping through as well. So I like to do a gentle yoga class with a lot of options and variations. So it's nice to have props. I have a blanket, blocks, strap, and a bolster. And so I like to start out lying down on my back. And because this is your very own practice, you're welcome to modify anything or start however works best for you. If you have a blanket, you can make a small roll in one edge of the blanket. This is going to go underneath your heart center. And then, or you could roll up the edge of your mat. So I like to have a little bit of blanket here to rest my head, and then just a small roll for underneath your back. And then you can come to lying on the roll with it right underneath your heart center. And maybe you want to bring your hands to your belly, or you could cactus your arms out to the sides. You might walk your feet as wide as the mat and allow your knees to tent together. Or if you'd like a little hip opening, you might bring the soles of your feet to touch. Open your knees out wide to the sides, coming into like a reclined butterfly shape. And if you'd like some support underneath the knees, you could take those blocks and wedge them underneath the knees. So take a moment to arrive on your mat this morning. Just allowing yourself to relax into this shape, soften, maybe even closing down the eyes. And if you need to adjust where the blanket roll is, you could always windshield wiper the knees a little side to side to gently rock side to side to maybe allow the blanket roll to come higher or lower on the back. And then just like we always are kind of attuned to our electric devices and their battery charge, maybe you can take that same analogy towards your own personal battery. And just notice where you're at today. Can you allow yourself to soften and plug into the earth, feeling the earth rise to support you, feeling the hug of gravity. You might have a specific intention that sort of inspired you to come to class. And if you'd like to pick any kind of intention for your practice, in yoga we call that a sankalpa. You can bring an intention to mind. For this month, I'm studying the niyama, which is one of yoga's ethical practices called Saucha, which means purity. So I just have a short reading in the book by Deborah Adele. And you could always use this as an intention for your practice as well. She says, the jewel of Saucha invites us to purify our bodies, thoughts, and our words. As we purify ourselves physically and mentally, we become less cluttered and heavy. Purification brings about a brightness and a clarity of our essence. As we purify ourselves from the heaviness of clutter and toxins, distractions and scatteredness, we can gain a clarity to meet each moment with integrity and freshness. We become more pure in our relationship with each moment. So if the idea of Saucha, purity, speaks to you, You can use that as an intention for your practice. You can either leave the blanket roll where it is underneath you, or if you're ready, you can move it off to the side and then come back onto your back. If your knees are open wide to the side, you're welcome to sweep your hands down and use your hands to press your thighs together. And then go ahead and return your arms maybe into a cactus or out into a letter T. And we'll walk the feet as wide as the mat. And then begin a little bit of windshield wipering with the knees. So allow the knees to float over to the left. Maybe turn your gaze over to the right. Inhale the nose and the knees back up to center, and then exhale to switch sides. Go ahead and take a few more rounds like this, following the pace of your own breath. Trying to bring your awareness into any sensations you're feeling in the body. Breathing into any areas of tension or holding. Allowing yourself this time to be in the present moment. Giving this loving attention to your body. And whenever you feel complete from left to right, we'll go ahead and come back to center. And you can either rock and roll up to a seat or roll over to one side and press yourself up to a seat. You can use the blanket as a little cushion to sit on. So I like to fold my blanket into a smaller rectangle and then come to sit on top of the blanket. Another option that can feel really good, or not, for some people, you could come to a cross-legged seat on the blanket, or you can sit on your knees with two blocks stacked up. This is called Virasana, or a supported hero's pose. It's kind of one of my favorite ways to sit with blocks. So either find that cross-legged seat or supported hero's pose, any way that can help lengthen through the spine. Allow your shoulders to melt away from your ears. And then if you could have something to use as a strap close by, that would be helpful. And it could also be like a kitchen towel would work, or a belt. So we'll just have that close by. So take a moment to arrive in your seat. Feel your sit bones rooting down. Allow your spine to lengthen. You can slightly tuck your chin. And we'll just practice a little bit of breathing here together. So the first breath that I'd like to practice is called Ujjayi breathing. And this is the warrior's breath. And so we can use this throughout our practice today. To practice Ujjayi breathing, you're basically imagining you were able to fog up a mirror. So you might bring your hand out in front, and that fogging up a mirror action, you're going to do that actually with your mouth closed. So all of that breathing out is going to come in and out through the nose. So you can kind of start to feel that slight restriction at the back of your throat, and then listen for the sound of your ocean wave breath. Now we'll sync up the breath with some movement. So on your inhale, you can roll your shoulders up towards your ears. Exhale. Allow them to cascade down the back. And go ahead and take a few more movements like this. Noticing if you can release any tension with the breath. And listening for the sound of your breath. And coming back to that sound, I think about it like if you were at the ocean and you were to take a big shell to your ear and how you can hear the sound of the ocean. If you find that your thoughts become distracted with ruminations of the past or plans for the future, you might just bring your awareness back into your breath. And then we can start to toggle one shoulder at a time. You might feel a bit of a stretch from the top of one shoulder across the back to the bottom of the opposite shoulder blade. You go ahead and take one more toggle like this, and then we'll start to toggle in the opposite direction. So you can bring the shoulder up from behind and down around in front, one at a time. If you're sitting on your knees and it becomes uncomfortable, you're always welcome to change it up and come on into a cross-legged position. And now we'll sync up the movement. So invite your shoulder blades to kiss at your back, and round your shoulders up towards your ears and down around in front. And one more time like this. Yes. And then we'll meet up in center and you can reach for that strap. Go ahead and take the strap into the right hand, and then we'll sweep the strap up and overhead and then allow it to fall down the back. So your elbows pointing up towards the sky. You can press your head back into your forearm, and we'll extend the left arm out to the side. Spin the thumb down so the back of the hand is facing forward, and then you can wrap that hand around behind you and grasp hold of your strap, walking your hands together any amount. And then maybe you want to even slide that bottom hand down to rest at your sacrum and just give it a little weight. You can find a little stretch for the neck here too. On your exhale, you can turn your gaze behind your left shoulder, any amount. And then maybe on your next exhale, you want to bow your gaze down towards your left side body. This might feel like a nice stretch for the neck. We'll take one more nice deep breath here. And then on your next exhale, you can release that, bringing your hands back into your lap. Taking a moment, you can close down the eyes or soften the gaze. And then we'll bring the strap into the left hand now. You can just drape the strap over the hand, and then we'll spin that hand up and back and around. Allow the strap to drape down your spine. Then you can bring the right hand out to the side, spin the right hand down, wrap that hand around and grasp hold of the strap. So you're just finding a little bit of tension, a little bit of activation, feeling the weight of your right hand. Stretch the left arm. And then maybe you want to turn your gaze behind your right shoulder. Take a nice deep breath here. And then maybe you want to bow your gaze down towards your right side body. We'll take a nice deep breath here. Inviting any tension living there to release with the breath. And with your next inhale, we'll come back to center. You can move the strap off to the side and then come off of your seat onto hands and knees next. You can always stay cross-legged if you don't want to be on your hands and knees. And you could also use the blanket for cushion underneath the knees. I have a lot of carpet, so I don't really need the blanket underneath me, but it's always a nice option to cushion the knees. And then you could also bring the blocks maybe onto the medium setting if you wanted to rest your forearms on the blocks instead of putting weight on your hands. So find whatever comfortable position will work for you. And we'll take a few rounds of cat and cow. So on your inhale breath, you can drop your belly, lift your heart through your biceps. And then exhale, round into your spine, draw your belly button towards your spine. And we'll take a few more rounds like this, following the pace of your own breath. After a few rounds, it could feel good to start to explore some other movements here. Maybe drawing a circle with the belly button. Imagining you're tracing the inside of a hula hoop. Feeling free to move at your own pace, tuning your awareness into any areas of sensation. If you're drawing a circle with the belly button, you can go ahead and reverse the direction. And as you move your amazing spine, you might offer it gratitude, sensing the awe and wonder of this amazing, intricate design. You go ahead and take one more nice deep breath wherever you're at. And then whenever you're ready, we'll meet back up in center. And then you can reach for your blocks. Maybe bring your blocks underneath your hands on the medium setting. And then we'll tuck the toes under. And you can start to walk your hips back. I'm actually going to bring the blocks onto the high setting. Coming into broken toe pose. So stretching through the undersides of the feet and the toes. You can send your breath all the way down into the feet. If you'd like to deepen the stretch up into your ankles, you could even press your hands onto the blocks, maybe on the medium setting, and lift your knees to hover. Take one more nice deep breath here, and you can softly land your knees if they're hovering. We'll walk the hands forward, and you can untuck the toes and give them a gentle tap. From here, we're going to walk the blocks over, or just your hands if you're not using blocks. Walk the blocks over to the right, making room to step your left foot forward. And then we'll bring the blocks back to frame the front foot. So you're in a low lunge here. And like I said, you can always pad the knee with a blanket, or sometimes in a yoga class, people will flip their mat over to make it extra cushy. From here, you can press your palms up onto your thigh, coming into this Anjaneyasana low lunge. So maybe you want to stay here with your hands at your thigh or on your hips. Or if you have a strong, steady base, you could always lift the arms, lift the heart, come into a gentle back bend, spinning the pinky fingers towards the midline. And then on the next exhale, go ahead and bring your arms out in front. So now you have like zombie arms. And we're going to imagine you're pulling a bow back. So you're going to be twisting towards that front left knee. You're going to start to draw your left arm back as if you were holding a giant beach ball. On the next inhale, we'll circle sweep the arm back up and overhead. And then maybe you want to take that twist 2 more times, bringing the hands out in front, sweeping the left arm open. Inhale to draw it back up to center. And exhale, maybe 1 more twist to the left. This time we're going to spin the right hand down to the ground or to the block. So I'm going to move the block onto my low setting and spin that left hand up towards the sky. And then exhale, sweep the left hand back down. We'll grab both of our blocks, walk them to the inside of the left foot, and then you can step the left knee back to meet the right. You're going to take a break in between sides, so you can either find downward dog or maybe child's pose. And if you're coming into child's pose, you might even use a bolster or a blanket or a pillow to rest the torso. So I like to bring my big toes to touch, open the knees up wide. Maybe you bring the bolster in between the knees and then allow the torso to rest. So find whatever position would feel restful for you. If you're resting on a bolster, you might allow one cheek to rest. And I'll to let you know when it's halfway through. You can rest the other cheek. Take a nice deep breath here, softening all of your effort, allowing the earth to rise to support you. And if you're resting with one cheek on the bolster, you can lift your head and turn the opposite cheek. It feels like such a nice stretch for my neck personally. Listen for the sound of your ocean breath. And then when you're ready, we'll press back up into hands and knees. And I'm just going to slide that bolster out of the way. And then you can bring your blocks. This time we're going to step the blocks to the right or to the left side. So you can step your right foot forward. You can bring the blocks to frame your front foot. And set up for your low lunge in Anjaneyasana. And you could walk your hands to your thigh or to your hips, or maybe you want to float the arms up and overhead, lifting the heart, lifting the gaze, internally rotating those thumbs, the pinky fingers, I should say, not the thumbs. On the next exhale, we'll bring the hands out in front, and then we're going to open up for that twist, sliding the right hand back behind you, twisting towards that front knee. On your inhale, you can circle, sweep it back up towards the sky, and maybe you try that 2 more times. You might notice some slight variations from left to right. And then with your next exhale, bring the left hand down to the block or a mat or the mat, and then you can slide that right hand up towards the sky. And then we'll exhale to sweep it down, grab for both blocks, walk them to the inside of the right foot, and then you can step the right foot back and the knee back to meet the left. From here, we're going to be making our way onto our bellies, and you have the option to take a forearm plank on the way down. So you can also take a high plank if you'd like. So we're going to start with a calf stretch. So you might come down onto your forearms and then stretch your left leg back, tuck the toes under, press your heel towards the mat. If you prefer to be on the palms here, that's okay too. I just thought I'd give you the option to give your wrists a break. So find whichever variation is going to work best for you. Allow your ocean breath to cascade down the back of your leg, pressing that heel towards the mat. And then when you're ready, we'll switch sides. So you can bring your left knee back underneath your hip, glide your right leg back, tuck the toes under, press the heel towards the mat, finding length through the back of your leg, stretching through the calf. Imagine the breath like the wave of an ocean and allow it to smooth down the back of your leg. And then from here, you can lower the right knee, step the left knee back to meet it. And so now you're actually in either a high plank on your hands and knees, or you might be on your forearms. From here, you can tuck your toes under, and maybe you lift one knee, or maybe you lift both knees, coming into either a forearm plank or a high plank. And you can always stay on one or both knees. And then whenever you feel ready, you take a few breaths in whichever version of plank, and then you can lower down onto your bellies. So we'll stack the elbows now underneath the shoulders, untuck the toes and stretch the legs back. And you can press your palms into the earth, lift the heart, and keep a soft, gentle gaze out in front of you for Sphinx pose. On the next exhale, maybe you peek your gaze behind your left shoulder. Inhale back to center. Exhale, turn your gaze past your right shoulder. Inhale back to center, and then you can either stay here or lower your forehead down. I'm going to offer a quad stretch though, and maybe not everybody will be interested in this one, but let's try it out if you'd like. So I'm going to move my right forearm to the front of the mat, so it's parallel to the front of the mat, and press into the forearm. And then you can bend the left knee, and you might reach back with your left hand. Maybe you want to grab the inside of your ankle or the top of your foot. You can point your elbow up towards the sky. And just find a quad stretch and heart opener here. On the next exhale, we can release that side. You're going to replace the left forearm with the right. So bringing the left forearm out in front, pressing into the earth. Bend the right knee. And maybe you want to reach around behind you to grasp hold of the foot, the ankle. You can kick the foot into the hand. You might grasp hold of the top of the foot, pointing your elbow up towards the sky. Maybe you just explore what works best for you and how this feels. We'll take one more nice deep breath here. And then we're going to land in our Makrasana, crocodile pose. So you can stack your palms, lower your forehead down to the back of your hands. You could bend into the knees and allow your feet to gently sway side to side if that feels okay. Go ahead and take one more nice deep breath here. And then if you're swaying your feet side to side, you can bring them back to center. Lower your feet, tops of the feet to the mat. And then we'll slide the hands behind us. Bring your right ear to rest towards the mat. On the next inhale, we'll lift the heart, lift the arms, lift the legs, bring the gaze to center for a flying superhero pose, locust pose. Take some few nice, steady, deep breaths. And then when you're ready on your next exhale, you can turn your gaze to the left or the right. Allow your left temple to melt towards the mat. Soften all of your effort. Take a moment here to delight in this time of rest. Next, we're going to come into a chest opener. So just make sure that you don't have any props next to you. So you want to clear either side, and then you can bring your arms out beside you in a letter T. You'll start to creep the right fingertips directly behind you, and you can roll onto your right side. Now you can bring your head to rest on the mat, or you might use a block for a pillow here. And you can stay with your legs stacked. This might be enough sensation through the front of the shoulder and the chest. Or if you'd like to deepen the stretch, you might bend into that top knee, plant either the toes or the whole foot behind your leg. Or you could reach down with your left hand to grasp hold of that top left ankle. And it can help deepen the stretch if you want to activate the legs by slightly flexing the toes towards the knee and allowing that top left knee to melt down towards the right knee. So you might be feeling this quad stretch here. Take a moment to soften, sending your breath deep into the areas of the body where you sense any sensations, inviting that tension to release with your breath, the oxygen to hydrate you. And with your next exhale, you can release the foot if you're in the bind. We'll roll back onto the belly, and then you can creep the left fingertips behind you as you roll onto your left side body. Maybe you want to let your left temple rest on the mat or on a block. And you could just leave the legs stacked here. Or maybe you want to experiment with bending into the top knee, setting that foot behind you. Or maybe you want to reach down with your right hand to grasp hold of the right ankle. And then allow the right knee to float down towards the left knee. You can activate this pose a little more by slightly flexing the toes towards the knee. Notice how you can balance your effort and your ease. Sending your breath deep into your body. Take one more nice deep breath here. With your next exhale, you can release the knee or the ankle, I should say, straightening both of the legs, and then we'll roll back onto the belly. Let's plant the palms underneath the shoulders, and you can press up to tabletop. And then maybe you want to find a downward facing dog or a child's pose. Or you can come to sit on your heels as I am in hero's pose. So take whatever version of a rest would feel good for you. And maybe you want to try releasing some tension with your breath in lion's breath. So in your downward dog, you might inhale through the mouth or inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth, sticking out the tongue. Take one more nice deep breath wherever you're at, and we're going to meet up in a forward fold. So I'm going to come through downward dog, and I'll use the blocks underneath my hands to make it a little easier. So I like to bring the blocks onto the low setting and then make sure that they're really firm and steady on the ground. You can have the back of your palm right up against the block, and then tuck the toes under, lift the knees or off of the mat, stretch the hips up and back. You might take a moment to pedal out your heels, sashaying the hips a little side to side. And then whenever you feel ready, you can walk your hands to your feet or your feet to your hands and come into a forward fold. You might plant your palms on your blocks, or you could plant them on your shins. And then with your next inhale breath, we'll press into the hands, lift the spine up halfway. Exhale to forward fold. You can go ahead and find that 2 more times. We'll inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And 1 more time. On the next inhale, you can bend into the knees, and then we'll sweep the hands up to stand. Exhale, draw your hands to your heart center. 2 more times like this. Inhale to sweep the arms up. Exhale to draw them to the heart center. And 1 more time like this. From here, we're going to come into a chair pose. So you can have your feet either underneath your hips or maybe a little wider than that. And then you can bend into your knees. Imagine there's going to be a chair right behind you that you can sit in. You can start to engage your core here. Maybe you invite your hands to meet at your heart center. Or on the next inhale breath, you can reach your arms out in front past your ears. This is Utkatasana, fierce pose. On the next exhale, we'll swim the hands back, and you can rise up onto the balls of your toes for drinking bird. Exhale, release the heels down, and we'll inhale to sweep the arms up. Exhale 1 more time, drinking bird. And on your next inhale breath, chair pose. Maybe 1 more round. And after your next chair, we'll rise up to stand. Exhale, bring the hands to the heart center. From here, we're going to walk the feet out wide on the mat. So I'm going to bring my blocks to the long edge, and then, some string on me. So we'll walk the feet out wide, allow the feet to be parallel, and then you can either bring your hands to your hips, or you might interlace the hands behind you. So I'm basically just interlacing the hands, but at my sacrum. And then on the next inhale, go ahead and lift the heart. And then as you exhale, you can hinge from the hips, leading with the heart, coming into a wide-legged forward fold. And you can leave the hands resting on your low back. Or if it would feel okay for the shoulders, you can lengthen the arms away from the body. Allow the knuckles to melt overhead. And go ahead and take one more nice deep breath there. Then you can bring your hands back to your low back. Release the fingers, allow the hands to trace the back of the legs. And then you can bring your hands out in front on the mat or onto blocks. And we'll inhale here for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. One more time, inhale for halfway lift. And then this time we're going to pivot the feet out to 45 degrees. Walk your hands up onto your thighs now. So you're coming into kind of a goddess squat or horse squat. So from here, leaning your spine forward, we're going to, like at a diagonal, you can start to press into your thighs and then allow your right shoulder to fall over towards your left knee. Inhale back to center. Exhale, we'll twist it over the left shoulder over towards the right knee. And then inhale back to center. And let's bring the torso up tall. So now you're really sitting on your horse. And from here, you can cactus your arms out to the sides, coming into goddess pose. On the next inhale, we'll stretch the legs long, reach the arms up towards the sky. And then on your exhale, let's take a lion's breath out through the mouth. And you can sink into your goddess squat. Maybe you want to try that 2 more times. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale. And one more time. You can hold it right here, and you could play around with balance, maybe peeling one heel off of the mat to hover. Exhale to release. You might peel the opposite heel off of the mat to hover. Exhale to release. And maybe you want to alternate one more time side to side, or you might try peeling both heels off of the mat to hover. Take a nice deep breath, and we'll soften our heels down, straighten the legs, bring your hands to your hips, and you can walk the feet in, heel toe them in underneath the hips. And we'll take a moment to shake it all off. Allowing your arms to gently graze your sides. Next, we're going to make our way back down to our mats. So if you'd like to use your blocks under your hands for downward dog, you might place them out in front. We'll come back to facing the short edge of the mat. And you can inhale to circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale to swan dive forward. Inhaling for halfway lift, pressing into the blocks or your shins, lengthening through your spine. Exhale to forward fold, and we'll plant the palms either on blocks or on the mat and step it back to downward facing dog. Whenever you're ready, you can bend into the knees, and you might take a moment to just hover your knees over your mat, building a little strength and heat. And then softly, gently set your knees down when you're ready. We'll walk the knees forward and then come onto our seat. From here, we're going to make our way down onto our mats and onto our backs, I should say. So you can reach your arms out in front and then very slowly start to lean back, finding just a little engagement in the core. And then finally, you might lean all the way back, hug your knees in towards your chest. And maybe you want to find happy baby pose, bringing your hands up to your ankles or your shins, or maybe you grasp hold onto your feet. You could take a moment to rock a little side to side. And we're going to come into a twist next on our backs. So it can be helpful if you want to take that blanket or block or bolster or underneath one of the knees. So any props that you might like to have, you can bring to the ready. And then release your feet so that your knees are now bent and your feet are flat on the mat. And then you can press into your feet and maybe scoot your hips a little to the right. Allow the knees to fall over to the left. And then we'll extend the arms out next to us in a letter T shape. You could stay here with your knees stacked, or you might slide that left leg long. And this is where you might like a prop to set underneath that right knee, because it might not want to come all the way to the mat. So if I had a block or a bolster, you can set that underneath the knee or the shin. And then allow your right shoulder to rest heavy on the mat. Maybe turn your gaze over towards your right hand. Ouch. Sorry, my hair got stuck. Just allow yourself this moment to soften, relaxing all of your effort. Once more, feeling the earth rise to support you. And if your mind starts to wander, you can always bring your awareness back into your breath. Take one more nice deep breath on this side. And then when you feel ready, you can unwind your twist. Maybe find a long body stretch coming onto the back, readjusting the spine, then lengthening through your arms all the way down to your feet. And then we'll go ahead and bring the hands back down towards the hips. You can plant your feet on the mat, bending into the knees. Press your feet down as you lift your hips and allow them to come over to the left. And then stack your knees over to the right, flipping your palms, extending your arms out into a letter T shape. You can always stay in this version of a twist with your knees stacked. Or if you feel that you'd like to deepen the stretch, you can extend your right leg long and maybe you bring a support for underneath your left knee, so that it doesn't have to come all the way down onto the ground. Allow your heart to open here. And maybe you turn your gaze over to your left hand. Allowing yourself a moment to soften. You might find this gentle wringing out of your spine. Coming back to the idea of purity, we can move our body in such a way to compress and release. We can help to wring out any toxins. Allowing the tissues to rehydrate. Take one more nice deep breath in your twist. And then you can always come back onto your back, readjusting your spine long by pressing your feet into the mat, lengthening through the spine. And then we're going to come in for our final resting pose, Shavasana, corpse pose. Maybe if you have that bolster or blanket, you might want to support underneath the knees by bringing that blanket in a roll underneath the knees, or you could always use your blocks or bolster underneath the knees. And then just allow yourself a moment to rest heavy on the mat, feeling your body slightly sinking into the earth as you feel the earth rise to support you. Start to imagine gratitude bubbling up from the heart center. And can you allow those little gratitude bubbles to take a ride with your blood throughout your body, pumping gratitude to all the areas of your body. Notice if you could soften your forehead, smoothing out your eyelids, relaxing the hinge of your jaw and softening your shoulders down towards the ground. And then take a moment to come back to your intention for your practice. Just gently observe it as a glowing jewel at your heart center. Maybe you notice that it shines a certain color. With your gentle inhales, allow it to grow brighter. And then with your exhale, allow it to darken and fade. I'm just going to come back to that idea of Saucha, purity. So as you continue to rest here, you can just allow these words to sprinkle down on you like little drops of rain. In the book by Deborah Dull, she says, whatever form purifying takes, it always begins with an intention to lighten the load we are carrying. Loads that weigh us down in our body, mind, and spirit. The guideline of purity invites us to move into ease, do what it takes to get rid of this heaviness wherever we find it in our lives. Clean your body, clean your mind, clean your living and workspace. In any way that we hold on to past wounds, we injure ourselves and keep ourselves from the ability to be pure with what is current in our lives. Forgiveness of self and other is the most generous gift we can give to ourselves. Because you're in your very own resting place, you're welcome to continue to rest here for as long as would feel good to you. Coming back to that idea of the cell phone battery, so we might wonder, with compassion and curiosity, what is our own personal battery and what can we do to help recharge it? If you're ready to reawaken the body, you can start to wiggle your fingers and toes, gently rotating your wrists and your ankles, sending gratitude down to the hands and feet. And then find a long body stretch, reaching the arms past the ears. And whenever you're ready, you can roll onto one side, finding a fetal position. And then whenever you feel ready, you can press yourself up into a seat. To arrive at your seated position, you can invite your hands to meet at your heart center. And then allow your head to gently bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart. It's such an honor and a privilege to have this opportunity to guide you through your practice. Thank you for joining me. Namaste. And if you have any thoughts or questions about class, you can always feel free to let me know.